3, 2, 1, let's go. Hello, Stefan. Welcome, buddy. Hey.
Good morning. How's life, Daniel?
Wonderful, wonderful. It's sunny outside. It's November. It's t-shirt time. So Spain, it's wonderful. Life
Yeah,
is wonderful.
already told you 2 minutes ago, we're in Germany. We had the first snow. I'm not happy about it, but it is how it is.
I believe you. I believe you. Stefan, as a fun fact, actually, I think you are the first returning guest of the JS Scrap podcast because for the history, just to be known, we already recorded one podcast, but the sound dropped, I think 6 months ago. So this is how you became the first returning podcast of the.
I'm so happy to be the first second guest.
Exactly, exactly. I'm very happy to see you again. Just to give you a very brief introduction, you are a web developer from Berlin, Germany. Actually, I think a more appropriate title for you should be a web artisan, not a web developer, because for sure you love this stuff and you get into for you it's much more than a job. It's very clear it's a passion, and whoever wants to search you online and listen to some other podcasts with you is clear the passion that you transmitted. And but I think you are the most known for the Web Weekly newsletter that you have. Right now it's at edition 175. Actually, you started this 7 years ago, if I remember correctly, in 2018. So congratulations. And
Thank you.
many time I think about your newsletter. It's basically a category of one. It's a mix of many. Today I learned till I think was the acronym, but mixed with a sparkle of human touch, with a nice song, with I don't know, a nice something alongside the tech stuff. So congratulations.
Happy to hear that you enjoy it. Thank you.
To get it started, and recently I've been for the past years actually, I've been very interested in sustainability and doing stuff for the long run, playing the long game. I will start with a question regarding how you were able to do a project for 7 years in a row. What are your advices for doing something sustainable?
Yeah, well, it's tough, right? When you now tell me that I'm doing this for 7 years, so I'm not actually that aware that I'm doing it for that long, because it's kind of part of my week, part of my life, right? And then I just do it and I don't even question it. Yeah, but you're right? It's 175, 76 is going out today. And how to make that work? Well, actually, as you highlighted, I'm that kind of person that has troubles sleeping because I'm so excited about technology. So, and I think this is just how I roll. Sometimes I read something, sometimes I have an idea and I really want to do something with it. I want to talk to people about it. I want to write about it. I want to build something with it. So I think to do something for a very, very long time, passion or at least enjoyment is very, very important to get rolling.
This passion was right from the get-go, was from the beginning, or was cultivated? The better you became into this, the more passionate you have become.
I think it was really from the first moment like that. So when I moved to Berlin, I actually had a different job. So I was a sound engineer and I worked for TV stations, mixing TV shows. And after 2, 3, 4 years, I hit the ceiling and I discovered, well, there's nothing new to learn here. And I'm pretty much done. I can now do that for the next 20 years, but it is very boring. So of course there's some thrill to kind of going live and mixing a TV show, but from a skill set or from how I can get input, that felt like it was pretty much done. And then I started studying computer science, and so the first 2 semesters were rough, to be honest, but at some point it just clicked and I was like, whoa, so this whole computer programming thing is actually very, very nice, because I didn't necessarily study computer science because I already know or already knew what it means to build software or to program. I was just like, I'm good with computers, right? So let's give that a try. But then after 2 semesters, 3 semesters, I was like, this is like magic. I can think about something. It's like puzzling. I'm stimulated mentally. I have always new things to learn, and it actually never ends. And then at some point, I just discovered that building stuff is so rewarding because if you're like, or when you crack a problem, right? We all know this. Sometimes you're, oh, why doesn't this work? And then you're on it for hours, and you're taking multiple turns on the same problem. And then at some point works, and it's like, oh, I'm very, very happy that this now works. I'm also grateful that I can do that for a living. So for me, this whole excitement came after 2 semesters of this studying computer science. But then I also discovered, so computer science studying, also the studies of computer science in Berlin were, I don't know, kind of useless. I think a lot of people can relate.
Yeah,
we did
same
a lot
in
of
Romania. So
yeah, so you do a little bit of C++ and Java and some theoretical stuff.
I
Go
do
ahead.
that. I think the only the best thing that computer science is useful for, at least in Romania, is to pass the algorithmic exams that you'll get in a company such Google or Meta or yeah.
Yeah, totally agreed. So the little bit of math stuff and algorithmic stuff, definitely useful. But I didn't know that at the time, right? Because at the time I was like, why do I need what was it called, Dijkstra or whatever the algorithm is, and all these kind of things. But then I started doing my first internship, and I entered kind of like an e-commerce Magento store kind of thing, and a very, very nice team. And then I discovered this whole world of web development, and it was PHP. A Backbone started back in the day, and jQuery, so the good old days. And then it was like, holy moly, this is very, very cool, but it's also not going to stop, right? And then I stumbled into the world of front-end web development, where literally I feel like it has calmed down over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, a little bit. But back in the day, we had the problem of yet another framework, yet another best practice, yet another how to do this. And it felt like I had every week, there was something that kind of was pushing me to the limit to kind of learn more things, getting better at my craft. And then I also stumbled into this whole web community kind of thing, right? I discovered, hey, there are actually people online. Being online and talking to people and making friends is kind of a thing. And then I was, after a year, so I was so hooked, and I guess I still am, and was like, man, this is the right choice. Now I can do magic being at home with my computer. I can chat with people online. I can build stuff, and I feel kind of challenged and satisfied all along the way. So this is kind of how I got into my excitement and my passion. And I think it's still there. So when you want to do something that is sustainable, like running a newsletter, you probably can relate, right? You have to be into it. So this is the number one rule. If it's draining you, or if it's too hard and it's like, oh, should I do that today? You will make maybe 6 months, maybe a year, but you have to really enjoy what you're doing, because otherwise there's no way that you succeed.
For me, I can totally relate with that. My wife is sometimes asking me, why are you keep doing the podcast? Why? And for me, it's like, it's extremely rewarding, extremely fun to meet all these folks that I admire, that I think everyone has to can learn from them. And it's somehow it's an intrinsic reward. Just
For sure.
the action is the actual reward. So,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you also have kind of conversations with people, as you said, right? You build a network, you can talk to people, you're having a good hour. A podcast is a very nice medium for that.
Exactly.
Because you can just hang out, chat a little bit, and then something pops out of it. You can publish something.
Yes.
And you can make a little bit of your name. You have good connections. So podcast is very nice for that.
That's one, but actually there are two other reasons. So first of all, I'm happy even if I learn just one single thing per episode. That's wonderful. And the second, in general, I noticed that once I interview someone I like, after that I have this burst of energy for days to come. Because what I'm in a cool industry, people are great here. It's very rewarding. So
100%. I used to have the same. So so it's not the same when I publish an article, right? Because there's no human touch to it, because I just published something. But when I used to, so there was a time when I really was speaking at a lot of conferences. And man, when you come from a conference, you made so many new connections. You talk to so many people that are like you, which is I don't know about your friends and family, but there are no nerds in my friends and
Same
family
here,
circle.
same here. That's why I have the podcast.
Yeah, and they just don't get it. But back in the day, I just came from a conference horribly tired, right? Because it's very draining. But I was like, man, this was so cool. I had so many good conversations. I learned so much, and I'm just so kind of inspired by what all the other people are doing. And I assume that it's kind of the same energy that you get from these one-on-one conversations, and just beautiful that there's a way that we all can connect with each other via the World Wide Web, right?
Exactly. Totally agree. Coming back a bit to the, because I think we can derail for so long about the podcast, and maybe we can and the interactions in the developer community. Maybe we can have a separate episode with that. But
The third one.
exactly, and that will be the coming back to the newsletter. Walk me through it, through the process of building one edition. I understood that you spent close to 8 hours now that you already have the process in place. But explain us the backstage process for building one edition.
Yeah. So first of all, due to this passion and for web technology, I first of all read a lot. Right. So I'm subscribed to a lot of newsletters myself. I blog a lot, and I also very much enjoy independent publishing. Right. So I also follow I don't know, 500, 600 RSS feeds at this point. And I just like to read and discover what is going on in the web world. And I'm constantly kind of hunting down these kind of things or these facts where I'm like, oh, that is interesting. Because when you look at the tutorials or things that people publish, especially in the web dev world, everything is kind of useful there, but I'm always trying to look a little bit deeper because how to do ABC with React isn't very... I've done it a couple of times. It's useful for beginners and all these kind of things, but I'm most likely always on the hunt for technical details that help me out or that I find interesting after being in the industry for 15, 20 years, right? And due to the fact that I read so much, so I would probably say, and that is not included in these hours, easily I read 1 hour per day web dev stuff in the morning over my coffee, and maybe in the evening I double check if there's something new. And from there, I just feel already guilty because I've spent so much time with reading all that stuff to not do something with it, right? So also my partner is like, oh, Stefan, this is a lot of time. Of course, she supports all this stuff, but that is a lot of time, what you do with this.
Fine.
And then I kind of jumped in, okay, let's just share the good stuff, right? And this is how I stumbled into just writing Stefan's weekly notes or something. And so I have a lot of bookmarks. I keep track of all the things during the week. So most likely I have already the newsletter content done when I sit down on Sunday or Monday. And then there the actual writing part comes in, and that is what takes the 8 hours. And a lot of people are like, well, you have all the links. What's the problem? And this is where I want Web Weekly to be a little bit different. You mentioned that. So Web Weekly is handwritten, and I take screenshots of these things.
Let me just understand. Just to edit the actual newsletter, it takes you 8 hours because already you have the material built up front.
That is right.
Okay.
Very often I have to reread the things again, right? This is a little bit on me. I have to improve my process, right? So ideally I would spend for every resource that I want to include when I actually read it to have this done, then it's 10 minutes, right? Because I have to reread the article. I have to kind of figure out what is important in there. But that is usually what I don't do, which I should be doing. But then at the end, I just come on Monday or Sunday. Let's say it's 6 to 8 hours. And then I was like, okay, now I have the 15 things that I want to include. And of course, reading one article again is 5 minutes, right? And picking the nice pieces out of it is another 2 minutes. I also like to include screenshots. So that all takes a while. And over the last year or so, I tried to have a nicer opening, which always goes into a topic that I just found interesting and then plug some other things. So I don't know, what was last week? CSS variables and why we should call them custom properties or CSS variables or these kind of things. So something like 150, 200 words just to get people into it. Yeah. And the fact that you highlighted that I want it to be kind of human. I want it to be me. I want that when people receive Web Weekly, I want that they feel like, oh, I got another email from Stefan, right? Let's see what he's up to. This is what I'm after. And this takes a little bit, right? With copywriting and kind of getting my tone into there. So after I have all of the links, I just sit down and I reread. And then there's also my my own kind of what I want to do. Because if there's good stuff, I also believe in blogging little facts and tricks on my own sites, right? I think that is something that a lot of people should be doing more. So whenever I have a nice snippet or something, ideally it lives on my blog, right? And I'm not scared or worried about having blog posts on my blog that are literally just like, hey, I found this cool snippet, boom, publish. But if I do this, of course, while I also write the newsletter, you see where this is going, right? This is another 20 minutes to publish something here, to publish something there. So there's no spectacular blog process there. So it goes to my blog first. It will disappear from my blog soonish, hopefully, because I move it. So I have a redesign coming for webweekly.email. So the newsletter will go finally to its own domain.
I see.
From the online version. So the online version will go there. And then when it goes to my blog, I go to my newsletter platform, hit publish. But yeah, it takes a while.
By the way, what platform are you using to publish the newsletter?
I use Button Down.
Button Down, yeah.
Which is one of these indie newsletter platforms. So I started with Tiny Letter, which was bought by Twitter and what died. So I looked at something, and I'm a big fan of indie products. I also knew the founder from his support channels. So Justin and I had a lot of back and forth, what I need, what he needs. And I just enjoy being connected to other makers, creators, because it feels better than kind of, I don't know, using MailChimp or whatever else is out there, or ConvertKit. So far I'm on Button Down and things are going well. We know each other. And if I need something, they are very, very responsive. So Justin and team, if you listen to that, your support is great.
Wonderful. Are you experimenting, or have you experimented with things such A/B testing in order to improve the open rates or stuff like that?
I'm not A/B testing, and I'm also always kind of jumping back and forth if I should turn off the tracking or not. So that is a little bit tricky, right? I know a lot of people, especially when it comes to email. I'm the biggest fan of open and click tracking, right? Let's say once a month I receive a reply, hey, could you not spy on me for clicking on the links?
Okay.
Yeah, really. So some people have strong feelings about that, and I understand that for sure. So how I work around this is that the version that goes to my own property, so my blog or the new Webweekly site in the future, won't have click tracking. So that I will offer that to the people. But short answer, I just hit publish and I see what people click on, and then I just roll with it. But on the other hand, what I want to do with Webweekly is also like, I want Webweekly to be the newsletter that I want to read. I want it to be a mixed bag of web dev stuff, right? So there are a lot of very focused newsletters out there, and they're all great. But I would like to Webweekly to be a newsletter where I open the email, where I have a little bit of fun, but then also when I'm done with it, I want that the people go out with, I learned 2 things here today, and that is actually pretty sweet. So, and that is what I'm aiming for. And I could now kind of optimize with A/B tests or conversion tracking and all these kind of things. But I don't know if I then would lose doing Webweekly how I want to do it. You know what I mean? A little bit, because
I see.
it's a tricky question.
You are starting to be driven by the numbers and not by what you want to build.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally. I just track, in my case, for example, I just track the open rates. I don't track the actual clicks because there are many clicks in an edition, I don't know, 10, 20 clicks.
Yeah.
So it will be, the data would be too scattered. But I said, okay, at least let me try experimenting with the open rates that I know that is directly related to the preview plus the title. So that's it. After that, people, they can do whatever they want. So
yeah, I think that's fine, right? But especially when you go into sponsorships and kind of selling ads, right? All the people want to have click rates, open rates, and also like estimated clicks on my ad. And I was like, I cannot estimate how often
of
people
course.
click on your ad because it depends on your ad.
Yeah, so
there are weird conversations happening.
Yeah, correct. By the way, we will get to that topic in just a bit. But speaking with coming back to the day-to-day running of the newsletter, I know you mentioned at one, if I remember correctly, was initially was Web Monthly or maybe so because I think I discovered very early your newsletter, and after that you switched to Web Weekly. Have you noticed improvement in open rates and so on? Because one of the theory, if you listen to the newsletter gurus, is to send emails at least
once a week or something.
Once a week or even multiple times per week, so that people are getting used with your name and so on. How was it for you when you switched from publishing monthly to publishing weekly? Have you noticed an improvement?
I think it was too early, and I was also not mature enough to kind of know a difference right now.
I see.
But I figured that with the monthly edition, I feel like I wasn't fulfilling my goal with what I want to achieve. Right, a monthly newsletter, people won't remember, and we are all guilty of that, right? And then there's this email, or let's say you sign up for a newsletter and you receive the first email 28 days later.
Yeah,
the person will most likely not remember that they signed up for.
Yeah.
And so after a little bit, I was just like, should I now go all in or not? Should it now be I just take my 10 links and I publish them and say I did something with them? Or do I want to do something with it to feel like now we're getting something?
Yeah.
And actually, I started doing this more or less. So I was a big fan of Anselm's newsletter, Web Development Reading List. He stopped at some point because newsletters, making them sustainable is very hard. But I was then thinking about, so Anselm stopped doing his newsletter, and I was like, And then I just looked around a little bit, and I was actually just domain shopping. And then I looked for the domains, and then I found that webweekly.email was free and open, right? And not even that expensive. I was like, should I? Shouldn't I? And I think for me, the kicker was actually that the domain was free, and I bought the domain. I was like,
okay.
Missed. Now now I know about Web Weekly. Now it becomes a weekly thing.
Got it. It's funny how such small things make actually a big difference in the long run, because it's a big thing to move from monthly to weekly, and everything was triggered by the domain name.
Actually, though, I was very stressed about this for multiple years now. But these days, I'm really trying to go for 2-3 emails. So I'm a person that likes to follow rules, right? And if I run a newsletter that's called Web Weekly and I only send it every second week, that doesn't work with my brain.
Yeah.
I feel like very guilty about this. But now over the years, I figured, well, maybe it's not that bad, right? It's like, and I try to really not stress about this too much. But of course, if I have ads and sponsorships in the email, well, for 6 weeks now, I'm on weekly again because I sold sponsorships. So right now I'm on 4 emails per month.
I see. Speaking of sponsorships, how does it usually works for you? How do you decide what sponsors are selected and so on? And do you do an active reach out to the sponsors, or many of them come directly to you?
So sponsors are just coming inbound. So I'm not doing any outreach.
Nice.
Often they come via the network. And I always reserve myself the right to kind of look at the materials and say no if it's not a good fit.
Yeah.
And this is twofold because, well, first of all, if people see publishing ads is already a tough thing by itself, because in Web Weekly an ad is also marked as sponsored, right? Yes. So it's very obviously an ad. And if there's just such a prominent space in the email that people don't care about, I think it harms the quality a little bit. But also, it will give me a headache in the future, right? Because if the person doesn't see the results because it wasn't a good fit in the first place, nobody wins.
Correct.
So I try to be very kind of proactive, and also very often give actually ping pong about, hey, this isn't a great ad. Let's change the image. Let's change the copy to make it work with this audience. And this way we kind of usually collaborate. And I think this is just the best way to do business with each other, right? It would be very easy for me to accept an ad and then go, well, your ad sucked. And this is why you only got 3 clicks.
Correct.
But then I have an angry person on the other hand. 6,000 people on the other hand also think, what is this? What is wrong with Stefan? Is he selling out?
Yes.
So there has to be a certain quality. So the Web Weekly ads are usually, I don't know, software as a service things, hosting things, these kind of things. And so far, I think it works okay.
Yeah. How do you decide when you are starting to read for stuff and you are starting to search for articles to put into the newsletter? Basically, you are a curator. This is what's... how do you decide between going deep versus going narrow? For example, you mentioned CSS variables. How do you decide if you just keep a topic in the I know that thing exists versus I am starting to learn as much as possible about that thing? Because this is not just relating somehow the newsletter, you are the main customer of the newsletter. I'm also the main customer of my newsletter and podcast. And I'm always divided between going and learning something superficial, but as many things as possible to have a general culture, I will say, versus knowing just one thing very, very good. How do you balance this?
Yeah, I think generally because I'm so excited about the whole web ecosystem, I'm trying to cover as many things without going too deep, right? So I want to have a clear understanding what's actually happening, because I think, especially if you're in the front end engineer, full stack engineer, I think there's a lot of value in not necessarily knowing everything to the deepest and fullest, but you have to know that certain things exist, right? This is also part of in my opinion, being a senior or something. You kind of have a skill set from 5 years ago, and then be in 2025 as like, I'm a senior, but I don't know what happened in the browser landscape for the 2 years. So that's another thing, right? When it comes to going deep, this is, I think, very much at random and driven by myself. Because if I think something is interesting, then I like to go deep if I have the time for it, right? So especially when you create content, time is a massive factor there. So because in my day job, so I also do a lot of developer relations, but also kind of software development. So I'm not coding 40 hours a week. So I maybe code 15 hours a week, and then if there's something that I want to go deep into, the chances that this is covered in my day job is actually very, very slim, that I can go into something that I found interesting. So when I have enough time, I go deep, but I also kind of, what I always consider with Web Weekly and the things that I include in the newsletters, I consider the audience. And I try to be very beginner friendly, but I would say that Web Weekly is a little bit higher in the stack for people that want to know what is actually possible. So not as this is how JS works, this is a variable, these kind of things are usually not included in Web Weekly, but hey, this is how, I don't know, new browser stuff works, and here, bam, 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 go deep in here. So I really try to also focus on what makes people reading the newsletter more successful. And the thing with software development is also something that I think most of the people need to realize, and the good developers, I do think, realize that very, very quickly, that you always have to have this habit of asking yourself, but how does it work? Right? You can now start using a framework, you can now using a database, and then you can call it a day after 10 minutes because it works, kind of. So it does what it is supposed to do. But what will make you better at your job, or will you make you stand out, is to then just sit down and it's like, yeah, but why does it work?
What is the shadow DOM? How the
exactly? If we go into the React world, but why does it render? And then go deeper, and then but why do I have this render infinite loop here right now? And why does that? And then when you go down this rabbit hole, you will just stand out in your developer journey. Because in my experience, some people are just like, okay, works, whatever, next ticket, done. YOLO people, I'm going home.
I know.
And of course, this takes a little bit more time, but this will also make you kind of the developer or the colleague or the person that is like, oh, I have an idea. Why is that? And just going further. And this is kind of how I see going deeper in Web Weekly. So first of all, I have to have this feeling, right? I have to read something or discover something and feel like, will this be useful for me if I debug something or if I want to build something in the future? Then I'm, of course, like, okay, let's go down for another 20 minutes, right? Or 30 or an hour or whatever. But I also, it's very important to me for the audience of Web Weekly to read Web Weekly. Then I was like, man, this will now make me better at my job. Thank you, Stefan, that you digged up 2-3 more resources to go deeper. And then, of course, I expect that the people will continue the journey if they want to.
I see. Wonderful, indeed. For me, I think the most recent, the biggest recent going deeper study case was with AI, and everyone was, yeah, I'm just speaking with a chatbot. Yeah, but how that thing works? I mean, I literally, okay, maybe it's too much to say that I couldn't sleep, but I was very close that couldn't sleep to understand how these things work under the hood, because they almost seem alive. And I don't know, depending on the standards, maybe soon we'll call them as being alive. So how does this thing works? And okay, I'm most likely I'm not able to create an LLM from scratch, but at least I know how to train a neural network to make the difference between a square and a triangle or a circle, and how those weights are adjusted and so on. So understand how things work under the hood, exactly that makes the difference between a coder and an engineer, I think.
Yeah, 100%, right? If you go for the AI kind of thing, so I'm not too focused on AI, but if you know what the model and kind of how a model is created and what it spits out, right? You will also use the model in a different way, right? It will never able to do this. Whereas a person that never kind of tried to understand how LLMs work, it's like, why doesn't it work? And you're like, yeah, well, A, B, C, D cannot never work like this. And this just will make you better at your job.
Totally agree. I mean, being able to demystify that black box of and being able to say in a meeting, guys, sorry, this is bullshit. I mean, it will not happen. So especially because people are seeing AI as this magical thing that it can clean your dishes, and guess what? It cannot clean your dishes, and it cannot reinvent new ideas and so on. So whatever.
100%.
Speaking of AI, and for 1 second, I will have to make a big shout out to another podcast, Sachin. I think I hope that I pronounce his name correctly. I'm sharing now your appearance at Sachin Web Podcaster. Wonderful interview he had with you, and I recommend anyone to go check it out. I will link it in because basically this discussion comes somehow as a follow-up to that discussion. Many of the questions I initially had for you were asked in that podcast, and after that I think I dropped half of my questions and started to add follow-up questions based on Sachin's podcast. You mentioned that, and I totally agree with you, I'm not interested in reading AI content unless it's a very narrow thing. I want to read human content, long form. And you mentioned that you don't use AI, but on the other side, you mentioned in that podcast that you are using some AI flows in order to proofread your text. Initially, you had Grammarly for all the grammars, and my flow was exactly the same. I'm curious how that flow works for you, or do you have any other flows that I think, or considering any other flows for improving your productivity?
Yeah, I think when it comes to AI, things are changing, and also I probably change how I flow a little bit. There are probably certain places where I wrote or said that I'm AI skeptic and I don't use AI. This became a little bit weaker over the last couple of months, but I still have feelings about using AI, right? Yeah. But I do think that when it comes to content creation, I would still stand behind the sentiment that I say I don't use. I need to rephrase that. When I talk about Web Weekly or the things that I write, I can on 100% I can say AI doesn't create my content. Yeah. And I think there's a difference to say I use AI as the same tool as Grammarly or VS Code spell check or Googling or whatever, right? So I still everything that I write is written by me. I use AI these days for spell check. So I'm on the process to dropping Grammarly actually with a custom raycast flow. So for the people that
Raycast was the missing tool. Okay.
yeah. So for the people that don't know Raycast, Raycast is one of these command launchers on macOS, but it has a native LLM integration. And what I can do actually is I can just place something in my clipboard or select something, then I do spell check, then it prints out a diff and places the corrected version back into my clipboard.
Wow.
So I can read over this entire thing, then I see the diff. So the nice thing about Grammarly is that Grammarly helps you improve with your language, right? If English is not your first language, you're like you do the same mistakes over and over again. And if you use Grammarly for a long time, you stop doing these things because Grammarly will constantly tell you that you shouldn't do this. Yeah. But I feel like after using Grammarly now for, I don't know, 6-7 years, I feel like my English is pretty okay. So most likely, very often, I'm just looking for fix the typos, right? Because I just very quickly wrote it down. So this is what I primarily use AI for in Web Weekly. So I write Web Weekly. I do the grammar check with AI. It also checks the links. And this is for Web Weekly, my AI flow. So the summaries are written by myself. So this is why it takes a little bit longer, because I don't want to have this. It's hard to explain, but I see and feel a lot of, or some newsletter or some bloggers started to let AI summarize certain articles, and you feel it somehow. It is.
Yeah, I know. It has a different language. I can say 90 with almost 90% certainty if something is written by AI or not, because who uses unpack in their day-to-day except an LLM? So there are even some keywords that if you spot them, 90% it's AI.
Yeah, and if it's like, and this is where I really have kind of feelings about this entire topic. If a person doesn't bother, so it's this. I think this email example is on point, right? So there's still this joke going. A person wants to say one sentence, right, and uses an LLM to make it a full-fledged email with 15 sentences, right? And then you have another person on the other end that receives this email with 15 sentences and uses an AI to transform it to one sentence. And I feel like this is how this is the big question now about content creation, right? If a person didn't bother to write two sentences by themselves, why should I read it? Because, and honestly, I feel like that this is a matter of respect. I don't mind if a person uses AI to brainstorm, uses AI for spell check, uses AI to do something, as long as they do the thing. But if, for example, there are newsletter creators that kind of, I don't know, scan Reddit, the subreddit, the web dev subreddit, right? And they have a script that checks or grabs all the articles that have 100 upvotes, and then they have an LLM flow that summarizes them, and then they pipe that in an email, and then they call it a newsletter.
Does that?
I have feelings about this. Why should I read this? And so, for everybody who uses AI as a tool to be more productive, to be faster, to be safer, regardless of burning the Amazonas down, or if you feel about the content grabbing, of course, I have feelings about these too, about the content steal and theft that is going on to train all the models. But for me, it is mostly about respect, because if someone didn't bother to create something, why should I bother to consume it?
I totally agree. I totally exactly respect when you're detailing your answer. The word respect also came into my mind multiple times. Exactly. It's a sign of respect that if I ask you to read my newsletter, then I'm the one who writes it. And I think in the future, I don't know if you listen to Tim Ferriss. I think he has some really good points into creating a category of one. I think a big part of the near future will be this curator stuff, but curated from a human perspective, when it's okay not to speak as an LLM and not just to say web stuff and add in there a song that you like, or a workout that you are interested, or whatever, a nice picture that you discovered, I mean, in here, because otherwise, yeah, we'll be just consumers of software, because that's in the end a script that goes on Reddit, parses, summarizes, and here you go, and that's totally fine. But that's
Sure.
not human to human. That's not a real publication there.
Yeah, I mean, this is also what I honestly worry about, right? If we all just consume algorithmic LLM slop, it doesn't matter the quality of the slop, right? But what can I trust if we all have our own little generated internet? And do I want to consume that? I honestly, I'm not sure. I'm also opening YouTube to see people, right? I want to see a person telling me something. And just because we mentioned on the topic of respect a little bit, this is not only about content creation, right? I also maintain some open source repositories, and I follow what people are kind of struggling with in more popular open source project. And it breaks my mind, honestly, how some people can think that they can open a pull request on a successful repository, a successful project that changes 50 files, and everything was just Claude code without even reading or what is understanding.
Exactly.
This is so disrespectful, the person that it is reading then this crap. And I'm almost getting mad about the state that maintainers or content creators, that the first question needs to be, is that AI? Is that generated? Or did you actually spend the time to create this? And I feel like, hey, everybody can do whatever they want, but if you fake it with LLMs, please let me know about it and give me the decision to decide if I read it, if I look at the pull request. And this is just something we as a community or maybe society have to figure out.
Exactly. And also, I was speaking with a colleague at work. He was very excited about AI and the fact that LLMs are solving his issues. But there is this thing about, again, sustainability, which somehow for me was the keyword of the past years. Up until now, you were encouraged to produce content. And this is how LLMs appear. You had this model by Google where in the end the end user arrived at your website, and with that you can somehow monetize it. But if we will consume just AI content, who will produce information in the near future? Who will produce high quality information in the near future? And LLMs are not able to do that. They are just able to regurgitate what they consumed before. So that's why I think Google up until now had a much more, search engine was a much more sustainable model of, I don't know, not just business, but model of society that LLMs. And I love LLMs. I think they are super cool. On the other side, yes, I'm worried about all the information stolen and the future, the impact that thing will have.
100% agree. I mean, we're derailing here a little bit, right? 100% agree. When you kind of consider the way how we consume things with Google search, right? Creating content was hard like 10 years ago. It is not anymore, right? And when this whole AI madness started, there were actually people kind of really being bold and being going out there and was like, hey, I just created 150 LLM slop articles and I'm now on Google here, and I'm generating so many leads, and was like, man, this is so sad. And you're actually putting that out there that this is mediocre stuff to get some eyeballs. And this is also disrespectful for all the people that are Googling, right? Of course, Google cannot I'm not sure where Google is at right now at discovering what is or recognizing what AI is and what it is not. But the thing there is you cannot trust anything at all today, right? And this is probably to come back to your point that if your Google search isn't respectful anymore because Google cannot differentiate what is now real, what is high quality, and we had this problem beforehand already, right? With SEO optimizations, where it's just like not random, but very structured content that wasn't actually great, but made Google happy. If we now reach the point that everybody generates all these kind of things, people become more important, right? And I want to believe that, and hopefully we're heading into this direction, that I maybe I'm not Googling, but maybe I go to trustful sources that I know that create good stuff or know where I find good stuff.
Correct.
And maybe that is the solution going forward.
Correct. Indeed. Again, we will need to another episode about AI and about podcasts and about the human side of tech. I have two more questions for you. Actually, three. Let's hope that we will fit into time.
I have a little bit more time, so we can keep rolling.
Okay, super, wonderful. Very happy to hear this. First of all, looking back now at your career, and also in here we are including the newsletter. What would you have done differently, or have you thought about things that you would have done differently in order to get the results faster or better? Or how would you had optimized your journey to arrive at this point, but faster or better? And it's okay to say, I super enjoyed my journey, I will not change anything. But have you noticed some learnings?
So I'm very happy with everything turned out, first of all. So my answer is, I can give you another spin on this. So what happened is, as I mentioned earlier, I learned to love what I do. And one turning point in my entire career was that I started speaking at meetups, I started writing, and I started getting involved in the community. That was a massive boost.
Okay. Wow.
Massive. Speaking at conferences, blogging, getting to know people, connecting with people. I'm more like of an introvert. That wasn't easy. For sure, it was hard work for me. But this gave me a boost for job opportunities, for salary negotiations, for being discovered, for learning more. So whoever has the chance to kind of get involved with the community, if you have the energy and if your life situation allows it, right? I was, when all this happened to me, I was in my mid-20s, no partner, no kids, right? I had a lot of time in my hand. I was love what I'm doing, right? So if there's a chance that you can get involved with a community in one way or another, and there are high chances that it will be very beneficial, and it might open doors that you've never ever thought that they exist. So my first kind of developer relations job. So for the people who don't know, it's kind of like blogging, helping people, speaking, being involved in community management, but also coding. I stumbled into this thanks to Twitter, and it was the weirdest thing ever. So I was just interviewing with a company at the time, and the chief marketing officer, we had a chat, and I was like, what should I do here? So I'm writing software now for 6-7 years, but what's the gig? And what he told me back in the day was pretty much just like, well, do your community thing, do what you do in your spare time, but I will pay you to do it. And you will wear a t-shirt with our logo, and you will talk about our company. I was like, that sounds okay.
A wonderful job to have.
Let's go. And without kind of blogging, speaking, and being involved in the community, and it doesn't matter if it's your local community. So for me, it was the Berlin community. I organized some conferences. I've spoken at plenty events, or being involved in the whatever online community you like. You will make friends, and it will kind of lift you up where we want to go. That said, here's the twist. Are you ready? Take care of yourself. I'm the typical person that is always on the edge. Even up to today, I turned 40 this year. I'm doing this weekly newsletter.
We are the same age.
Take care of yourself, especially when you grow a little bit older. You figure, or you start asking yourself questions. I 100% love what I do, but sometimes I question is like, man, now you spent the last 10 years doing nerdy stuff, and you 100% enjoyed it, but shouldn't you have spent maybe more time with your friends, with your family, with your whatever is there? So, I totally see that this comes with age, but take care of yourself, because the journey of kind of pushing it forward with writing, with speaking, with producing, with coding, with late night sessions, or not like, take care of yourself to kind of optimize for good situations, for good experiences with other people that are maybe not in the nerdy or in the programming sphere.
For example, and we are totally on the same point. As I said, I think for the past 3-4 years now, sustainability was always in my mind. Okay, how can I do this so that I can do it up until I'm 90? I don't want to retire. At one point, I was like very into, I will try to get as much money as possible, and after that, do what? Live on a beach? I mean, you are not In order, I see somehow happiness as a salad, and you need all kinds of ingredients, and one of that it's actually work, but that work
100%.
needs to be in the correct proportion, in the correct size. Otherwise, it will break you, and you'll end up at 60s never wanting to hear about a computer. And I don't want to do that. I mean, computers were nice to me, and the actual community, not just computers. So I'm thinking about Warren Buffett for Warren Buffett, for example. I don't. Okay, his money are okay. I mean, I will not say no to that. But actually, the reason I'm envying him for is the fact that he's active and relevant at 90 plus, 95, 96 years old. He has a life at 90. Yeah. He's not like waiting somewhere for his time to run out. And I think sustainability and taking care, especially I had some really lower back issues. I was very close to a surgery. So okay, how can I do this so that I can enjoy it and I can sustain it up until I'm 90? This is my target.
Totally agree. I have a similar target, but a little different spin on it. Mm-hmm. So I don't mind retiring early, but I would like to reach a point where I can do the stuff that I love without kind of looking for how I can pay my bills.
No, that's exactly. I mean, that is somehow, and I will have a episode published in December. I spoke with Michael, a developer from Ireland, and he speaks a lot about financial independence as, and I heard this word because it's too much, financial independence. But I think doing work for the sake of the work and not always driven by pay the bill or try to do that's. And I'm actually, I lived in Denmark for a couple of years, and in there I feel that people having that whole welfare society and so on, people are not driven by as much as money because they have like all kinds of benefits that they can just coast if they want, but still they are doing wonderful work. I think as humans, we are inherently creative and we want to do stuff. So I totally agree.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, last point to that is it's kind of like, I don't think that getting rich is the goal, right? Mm-hmm. But the goal should be to not worry about money. That is the baseline. If you don't worry about money, and what you say there is, I think 100% on point, right? I don't think that I will retire and I will just read books every day because I want to do stuff, right? But if I don't need to worry about money, I can get up in the morning with like, okay, what do we do today? And if it creates value in the same go, man, that would be beautiful.
Totally agree. Totally agree. There are some in this ever-changing world of software development. There are some things that were more or less timeless. For example, how the CSS box model works, or HTTP. That has been, or SQL. Those things have been around for a while, and they are not the sexiest things, but they are foundational. And you can do almost anything with them more easier. If you'll have to point people to a set of this type of foundational timeless knowledge, what other elements would you add to this list? Or also for you, what are you considering? What do I want to learn in the upcoming years that it will serve me for many, many years ahead?
Yeah. So I think your examples are pretty much on point, right? So I'm more like my last SQL query, dude, is probably 10 years ago. So I haven't done that in a decade. Okay. But I think if you're leaning towards the front end side, I'm all about the web dev fundamentals, and I think they are right now only getting more important. So HTML, there's not so much things happening. But for the people that are not following along what is happening in CSS over the last 2.5 years, you are missing out. Exactly. And I don't know if it could be considered as low level or a fundamental, but there is so much new things coming into CSS as a language, We now have functions, we have ifs, we have view transitions, we have animation capabilities. This technology is on fire. And I feel like this is also where the web dev industry is kind of missing out, because we are all doing new Next.js project, and then we bring frame of motion, and we bring this and this and this and I think shipping the same with less code, so the same product, shipping the same product with less code, is something that I would say should be the goal for anyone who ships code to the browser. And what comes with that too is kind of understanding how the browser actually works, right? How does, you mentioned the CSS box model. I think that's a beautiful example, but how does the network waterfall work? How does render blocking work? How does the event loop work? All these kind of things are fundamentals, but man, we are shipping to the browser. A person, I think one should understand what is actually happening in this box that has a Chrome, Firefox, or Safari logo on it. And you can only understand how to build the best things for the medium that you're targeting when you know how this actually works. And so I would say this is the foundation to what is going on.
I see. Wonderful. Do you think MCP will make it in this list of timeless topics? For me, it kind of feels, I would make a bet, not a huge bet, but I would make a small bet. What's your take?
So MCP, I do play around and use MCP. This is also something I have feelings about, right? So what I'm using now for a couple of months is the Playwright MCP, and that actually brings you into a situation that is very strange as a front-end developer, because you can now task an LLM to do something, but also the LLM can open up a browser to see if it actually works. Yeah. So you kind of establish this loop of an LLM developing, checking, pretty much how a human does it, which is weird and scary. Yeah. So I think for these kind of use cases, MCPs will stay there. I think because the LLM cannot control a browser on my machine, right? It just cannot. So for these kind of cases, I think MCP will stay there. For all the other cases, I'm not really sure, and I'm also probably not knowledgeable enough about what is going on in the AI and MCP world. But I started to see people kind of questioning the MCP approach in general, because it consumes so many tokens. It can also maybe mess up your conversation because there's so much going on. Right. I also see people pushing for more CLI tools, and what was it in Cloud Code Skills or something against MCPs? Yep. I don't understand the clear picture to 100% answer your question here, but for certain scenarios like browser automation, I think I'm MCPing, dude.
I see. Wonderful. As a final question, if you will have to leave listeners with just one idea so that they will improve their craft and be useful to the ones around them, what that main message, main idea would be?
Yeah, I think the main message, we covered that by accident earlier. Dive deeper, right? Understand what you're doing. Don't be satisfied with it works, especially when you're dealing or when you're building a product or a people facing or product that is targeted at people. Understand what technologies you're using. Just ask one more question and see if you can understand what is actually happening, instead of shipping something that seems like it's working and then kind of breaks apart because you didn't realize that you're not doing the right thing.
Wonderful. Where would you send listeners to find you?
Well, Web Weekly, we discussed that, is you can find it online on webweekly.email. And my name is Stefan Judis. You will find me all the internets with my full name. And also my blog is on stefanjudis.com.
Super. Stefan, thank you very much. You already have in advance a request for another episode at some point. So thank you for that, and keep in touch. Thanks for that.
All right. Thank you for having me. That was great.